It would keep me from living in D.C. just because I want my voice to be heard. With the growing Hispanic population, and as a Hispanic, I definitely think it's important to have, representation on the Hill.
And I mean, I have to ask you guys, what message does it send in a democracy to deny nearly 600,000 citizens a right to vote based on where they live? I mean,
personally, I think that, it sends the message that, and I'm not anti-American at all. I'm probably one of the most patriotic people you'll meet. But I think it sends the message that we can tell people that democracy is important, but we don't have to back that up. And I think that it shows, a side of America that is still stuck, in some of the practices and negative patterns of thought that made us, that made slavery, or that made the civil rights movement, that kind of made those battles less of, less of an issue for a lot of Americans. I think that this is something where, that's why I'm committed to fighting for voting rights, or committed to staying in the city, because I think that it sends a message that, these 600,000 Americans don't really count. They're good enough to they're good enough to pay taxes, they're good enough to send their young men and women over to Iraq to die, they're not good enough to have a vote. And I think that's complete hypocrisy, when we can go free Iraqi citizens, or we can go and tell the North Koreans or the Chinese that they need to, try to force democracy or try to encourage democracy in their countries. But in our own country, we turn a blind eye and a cold shoulder to the 600,000, even the ones that came before, the current D.C. residents, that their voices do not count. And I think that's a terrible message.
I also think it's a terrible message, as he was saying. How can we be trying to spread democracy around the Latin American countries, the Asian countries, the European countries, if we cannot do that here, especially in the nation's capital? That we need a voice to be heard in Capitol Hill, so different things can change.
Another reason I think there needs to be a voice is because there are issues specific to this city that only the residents know about, and that they need to represent, as opposed to countries in the Midwest, the rural, the suburban states that don't really have the problems that we face here in D.C. I think they need to be addressed.
Okay, and I wanted to give much thanks to you, my peer panel here on Civics 101. Thank you. And if you would like to learn more about D.C. voting rights, you can find lots of information on the website, www.dcvote.org. As we've seen today, even though Washington, D.C. is on the mainland USA, its citizens are treated more like those who live in the U.S. territories overseas. None of them have a voting voice in Congress either. Here's our Civics 101 pop quiz question this week. How many U.S. territories are there, and where are they? We'll have the answer coming up in a few minutes. We'll be right back.
Can we pause it for a second?
Okay.
Thanks.
Hey, where you going?
I need to pass gas.
Well, that's cool. You can do it here.
No way.
Go ahead. I don't care.
Look, if I pass gas in here, it's going to be toxic, and it could linger for hours, maybe days. Is that what you want?
No.
Be right back.
Secondhand smoke contains hydrogen cyanide and other deadly gases. Don't pass gas. Take it outside.
These things we count on every day started as ideas. Ideas from the minds of African Americans. Support minority education today so we don't miss out on the next big idea tomorrow. The United Negro College Fund. A mind is a terrible thing to waste.
I'm Anthony McLeese in the newsroom with this week's Civics 101 News Week in Review. In Congress, Democrats have promised to force a change in President Bush's war strategy. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid has sharply criticized the president, and many congressional observers say Reid is trying to compromise across party lines, asking that all Republicans join Democrats in finding a way to responsibly end the war. Such a deal would almost certainly require Mr. Reid to drop his demand for fixed deadlines for withdrawal, a position that brought the Senate to an impasse on the war in July. The criticism from Democrats as based on a new report by the Government Accountability Office showing virtually no political progress by the Iraqi government. The latest evidence that the president's military strategy is not working. Analysts say it is too soon to say how far the Democrats and Republicans in Congress are deeply divided on this issue. Early primary pressure has mounted as the first presidential primaries and caucuses are less than 5 months away, and state and county election officials in California are feeling the pressure. And about 30 other states, along with California, have moved up the dates of their primaries and caucuses next year. Some would hold them even weeks or months earlier than 2004. As many as 20 states could be voting on February 5th. The unprecedented glut of early elections has officials worried about everything from the workforce to the weather. Federal election experts say the states and counties should be able to handle the early changes brought on by the early primaries. And the popular website YouTube is playing a significant role in the 2008 presidential race. Not too long ago, the website known for its crazy videos and commentaries provided Democrats a handful of youth and adult questions from around the world, with questions of issues facing everyday people, questions from what would you do about world poverty to gay marriage. Democrats, such as Senators Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and John Edwards, have shown support for the YouTube presidential debates. In addition, there have been similar debates planned for Republicans running for president in 2008. In Washington, D.C., Mayor Adrian Fenty has asked the U.S. Supreme Court to uphold the district's ban on handgun ownership. If the High Court agrees to take the case, it could lead to an historic decision next year on whether the Second Amendment to the Constitution protects an individual right to own a gun, or simply applies to a collective right to maintain a state militia. The District of Columbia's handgun law is one of the strictest in the nation and could be